In the heart of the African landscape, long, steady shots capture the region's untouched beauty. Monkeys, cheetahs, lions, and a variety of birds move freely through their natural South African habitat. That night, a baby cheetah wanders off alone, clearly lost. It approaches a fence, finds a wide gap, and pushes its way through. On the other side, the wild cub ends up on a road. With a pair of headlights coming straight at it, it looks like the car might run the cheetah down, only for it to swerve off the road just in time. The driver turns out to be Peter, a local farmer on his way home with his son Zan. Both father and son are shocked to find a wild baby cheetah in this part of the country, but they quickly trap and save it from a speeding truck that nearly runs them and the cheetah over. That moment clearly shows how little chance the cub had of surviving on its own. They bring the cheetah home and show it to Zan's mother, Kristen. They're not really worried about having a wild animal inside, but more focused on protecting the helpless cub. That night, the cub sleeps in Zan's bed, and a bond begins to form. As expected, the family decides to keep and raise the cheetah for the time being. A montage shows the cub settling into its surroundings and getting used to his new family. Same goes for Zan, Peter, and Kristen. They all do what they can to adjust to the newest member of their farm. One of the jobs Zan has is naming the cheetah, and after giving it some thought, he eventually picks Duma, the Swahili word for cheetah. A few scenes follow showing Zan and his dad bonding around the farm. They build a treehouse together, ride a scooter, and do all sorts of things. And of course, Duma is always nearby, watching it all. One day, though, Peter falls ill and ends up in the hospital. And although he returns after a few weeks looking mostly all right, it's clear something's changed. He still seems low in energy, and things at home aren't quite the same as they were before. One day, while hiding out in the treehouse, Zan's father climbs up to talk with him about Duma. He gently explains that Duma is a wild animal, and they can't keep him on the farm forever. He goes on to say that Duma was born to be free, that he's meant to hunt, chase, roam, and live like the other cheetahs do. Zan doesn't want to let Duma go, but luckily his father has come up with a plan. He pulls out a map and shows Zan where they first found Duma. He explains that next weekend they'll head out there together, camp for a night, and release Duma back into the wild. It's a sad moment for Zan, but deep down, he knows it's the right thing to do. Unfortunately, before the two can follow through with their plan, Peter suddenly passes away. Kristen gently explains to Zan that without Peter, they can't stay on the farm anymore. They'll have to sell it and move to the city. Zan naturally begins to worry about Duma, but Kristen assures him that they'll send the cheetah to a wildlife reserve where he can live safely. Still, Zan doesn't like this idea. He wants Duma to be free in the wild where he truly belongs. Kristen insists they don't have a choice. She has to prioritize Zan's needs first and Duma's second. Zan starts his first day at a new school, understandably nervous, and things get worse when he finds himself the target of bullies right away. Meanwhile, Duma is being kept in a cramped apartment with Kristen's sister. One day, when Kristen leaves to pick up Zan from school, Duma seizes his chance and escapes. The cheetah follows Kristen all the way to the school. Now, while Zan's in class, he gazes out the window and spots Duma watching him from a distance. He goes to stand up, but the teacher immediately calls him out and tells him to stay seated. Then, a scream erupts from outside, followed by more screams, causing the classroom to descend into chaos. Zan bolts from the room, already knowing Duma is the reason for the commotion. He runs after the cheetah, eventually finding him in the locker room. But he's not alone. The bullies corner Zan and, true to form, start picking on and beating him up. That is, until Duma intervenes. One glimpse of the wild cheetah has the bullies screaming and running off in terror. It should be a moment of victory, but as they step out of the locker room, a SWAT team storms in, targeting Duma. Zan and Duma flee on their own. With nowhere to go and no one left to trust, Zan comes to a painful realization. Duma can't stay in the city anymore, and he also can't allow his mother to send him to a reserve. If Duma's going to return to the wild and live free, it's up to Zan to get him there. So he makes a bold decision. Leaving a note behind for his mother, he takes his late father's motorbike and sidecar. With Duma riding alongside him, Zan sets out on their epic journey. But as expected, things soon go awry. They're cruising through the desert, miles from any road or trace of civilization, when the engine on the bike suddenly gives out, stranding them in the middle of nowhere. Zan now has no choice but to push the bike through the desert, walking until nightfall. That's when they stumble upon the wreckage of a downed plane. With no better options, they set up camp there, clearly unsure of what to do next or whether they'll even survive. That night, as Zan sleeps, a wandering vagrant named Rip appears from out of the desert and attempts to steal the bike right from under Zan's nose. Luckily, Zan wakes up and confronts him. Fortunately, Rip's not crazy, just desperate and lost. He saw the bike and figured it might shorten his journey. Zan tells him the bike's dead without gas, which Rip obviously doesn't have, but it's enough to ease the tension between them, and the two soon begin to bond. Rip offers Zan some water but scolds him for sharing it with Duma. He then reveals that his destination is 5 days away on foot, but warns that they'll likely starve before then. He even suggests eating Duma to survive, but Zan has a better idea. Nearby, he finds a few parachutes among the wreckage, and using some quick thinking and a bit of creativity, he straps them to the bike, rigging up a makeshift sail. Wow! Now Zan, Duma, and Rip glide across the vast desert, wind in their sails, quickly making up for all the time they lost sitting still. Even better, they won't have to eat Duma after all. Meanwhile, back home, Zan's mom is terrified, and we see her printing out missing posters, clearly desperate to find her son. Out in the desert, Rip uses his knowledge of the land to locate fresh water by digging straight down into the earth. Still, food remains a problem, but with Duma around, maybe they can catch something. They put the cheetah to the test, sending it after an ostrich, and soon it's sprinting at top speed. Duma fails to make the kill, but does manage to stumble upon a nest filled with large ostrich eggs. It may not be meat, but it's still something. That night, they make a fire and cook the eggs. And as they eat, Zan opens up about his plan to return Duma to the exact place they found him as a cub. Rip listens but warns Zan that this is incredibly dangerous, mostly because the wild is full of animals that kill anything they see. Still, Rip offers to take him halfway. Zan doesn't fully trust Rip, and it shows, but he knows he doesn't have much choice. And so, Zan, Rip, and Duma set off again, trekking through the brutal desert heat, pushing toward their goal. At one point, they reach an old stone wall where Rip uncovers a buried spearhead. He picks it up with excitement, just as the sound of a helicopter roars above. The two quickly dive for cover, not realizing it's Zan's mother searching for him. Still, we get the feeling even if Zan had known, he would have stayed hidden. The next day, they stumble upon an abandoned diamond mine. Rip insists they explore, hoping to find any diamonds left behind. Once Rip's inside, Zan sees a chance. He and Duma make a quiet break for it, but before they get far, a crash echoes from the tunnel. Rip's in trouble. With no other option, Zan runs back in to help. Sure enough, the mines collapsed and buried Rip under rubble. Zan rushes over, spotting his waving hand, and digs until Rip can breathe. Rip's relieved, but he's still trapped and begs Zan to keep digging. Instead, Zan accuses him of going the wrong way on purpose. Rip denies it, but Zan doesn't wait. He leaves him half buried and takes off with Duma. Their next obstacle is a wide river. Zan builds a raft out of scraps and climbs on with Duma. But as they begin to cross, the current pulls them fast. And worse, there are gators in the water. The raft breaks and they fall in. The gators close in fast. Zan thrashes and stabs with his spear, calling for Duma. It's a wild moment as the gators close in, but somehow, Zan reaches the shore, just barely. A terrifyingly close call. And that night, things get a bit more dangerous. They're deep in the wild now, and we see all kinds of native animals wandering across the desert terrain. As Zan pushes through a dense, dark jungle, Duma unknowingly walks into a trap and gets caught in a cage. Before Zan can react, he's chased up a tree by a wild boar that's caught his scent. Perched above, Zan watches the boar circle below, only for a spider crawling on him to make him slip. He falls from the branch and crashes hard to the ground. The boar charges, Zan's cornered. Then everything goes black. When he comes to, Rip is there, and so is Duma, now free. Rip explains he found Duma caged and rescued him. He admits he thought about selling them both for cash, but didn't go through with it. Then he tells Zan he used to be a different man, one who did terrible things, like walking away from his family, but he's trying to change. Now he says he's not that man anymore, and he wants to prove it. So the next day, Zan and Rip stumble upon a small group of tourists camping out near a bungalow. The tourists have plenty of supplies and food, and the two hatch a plan to swipe it. They catch a huge snake, and Zan wanders into the group pretending to collapse. Just as he lets the snake loose, chaos erupts as the tourists scream and scatter in panic, running for their lives while abandoning the food. Rip and Zan charge in, grabbing what they can, including a canoe, before the tourists return. Rip gives Zan some small precious stones, and Zan gives Rip some money in return. It feels like things might finally be going right. The next day, they journey through more desert terrain. Duma races ahead, and when they catch up, he's tearing into a fresh animal carcass. Zan tries to stop him, but Duma growls dangerously. Rip holds Zan back and gently explains that Duma's instincts are kicking in, that this is what freedom really means for him. Later, Rip takes Zan to a cave from his childhood, and the two share a moment about Zan's father. The talk becomes a quiet metaphor for change and letting go, and it clearly lands differently now. Zan is changing, and so is Duma. They walk an open plain, A glance around, and Rip urgently shouts for Zan to run. Zidzi flies. A swarm of the biting bugs descends. Rip shields Zan with a blanket, but he gets caught in the storm of bugs and badly bitten. That night, the sickness sets in. Rip is weak, barely able to stay upright as heavy rain pours from the sky. Somehow, the two manage to build a small fire, but Rip's condition worsens fast. With no other option, Zan leaves Rip near the flames and heads off to find help, first commanding Duma to stay behind, but naturally, the cheetah doesn't listen. As Zan rushes through the wet desert, desperate to find someone, a pack of lions picks up his scent. But then, just in time, Duma appears and distracts them, steering them away and saving Zan. Even better, during the daring rescue, Duma manages to charm a female cheetah, but Zan is too focused to notice. He finds a small nearby village and frantically tells them his friend is very sick and needs help. The villagers don't hesitate, although their healing ritual is strange. Still, it seems to work. By morning, Rip wakes up and realizes something shocking. This village is actually his old home, and his family is still there. They reunite, and Rip apologizes sincerely for abandoning them. Thankfully, there's no bitterness, just love and forgiveness. It's a warm and rewarding moment for Rip, whose long journey has finally come full circle. The next day, Zan finally spots Duma with his new companion. He watches quietly as the two cheetahs run and play together, wild and free. It stings, but Zan slowly begins to understand that this was the goal all along. As painful as it is, he knows he must let Duma go and return to his own life. So, he does. Sometime later, Zan makes it back home, and to his surprise, he finds his mother out on the farm again. Riding the lawnmower, she catches sight of him in the distance, leaps from the mower, and sprints across the yard. When she reaches him, she wraps her arms tightly around him. His journey has been long and full of challenges, an experience he will carry with him forever. But now that he's home, Zan knows it's time to begin a new chapter with the people he loves. You loved the video? Be sure to smash that like button and subscribe for more cool stuff coming your way. See you in the next adventure.